Hello, hello. Welcome to Podcrushed. I'm in Los Angeles, first of all. This person is in Los Angeles, which he normally isn't.
Yeah.
You know my co-hosts, Sophie and Nava. I won't tell you which side.
Yeah.
This is Lee Toland Krieger, who is the director of the pilot and the finale of a tiny little show called You, which is about moi. So what we're going to do is we're going to just focus on Lee's adolescence for the first 2.5 hours, and then we'll just do a quick recap of the You season 1, episode 1 pilot. Just a quick little So no, we won't do that. What we are going to do though is do a pilot rewatch of. I usually say my show, You, but I can now say our show.
Okay.
You. Our show, us.
Thanks. Yeah.
He's like, okay, cool.
Well, it also should be. We should have a disclaimer here, which is, I laugh more working with Penn than anybody ever. Truly,
It's true. We have so much fun.
To the point where, especially this summer doing the finale, it got to where Maddie was looking at us like, really?
I know.
Are we gonna get to work?
Well, because the finale was a lot.
And it was a lot, and it also had like a last day of school vibe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
true.
summer
We had
break,
senioritis.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'm looking forward to this because we do laugh
We laugh
together.
a lot together.
We're kind of like
Yeah.
kids.
It'll
you
be
know,
it's going to be fun.
Silly,
it's going to be fun, and I want you to answer all the questions as your 12-year-old self.
Okay,
because
that's
you
easy.
are aware of the framework of our show.
Yeah.
So, I think we should start.
All right. Alrighty.
Let's do it.
Lee, can you walk us through anything that you think we should know about, like how a pilot comes together?
So, a pilot, for those of you that don't know, first episode of any show, generally it's for a network to figure out, hey, do we want to make more of these? Because it's obviously very expensive to order a season, even a 10-episode season.
It's from like network days.
Yeah,
before things were binged all at once.
Exactly. So that it kind of an antiquated thought, but You was straight to series, so we knew we were making the series. But I'll just say for me, the main thing is sort of setting a tone and establishing a visual language for the show that, in theory, the other filmmakers that come in subsequent episodes can then sort of take that blueprint and put their spin on it, but sort of stay color within the lines of what that is. And so, for this show, because Joe is this dark, perverse sociopath, I think you can say.
It's fair to say.
I think he's pretty cute.
He's a hero. Very cute hero. We wanted to cut against that. And so the broad strokes of this is just we wanted to create a show where the look and feel felt like a New York romantic show. You know what I mean? So that in effect we have sort of a misdirect of, what's coming. We didn't want it to be too sort of cool and steely early on. Anyway, we'll get more into the nuances of it when we get into it, but that was sort of the big overarching idea of how to treat the show. But that's the job for the director.
Well, hello there. Who are you? Based on your vibe, student. Your blouse is loose. You're not here to be ogled, but those bracelets, they jangle. You like a little attention. Okay, I bite. You search the books, fiction, F through K. Now, you're not the standard insecure nymph hunting for Faulkner you'll never finish. Too sun-kissed for Stephen King. Who will you buy?
Sorry.
You sound apologetic, like you're embarrassed to be a good girl, and you murmur your first word to me.
Hello. Do you work here?
Guilty. Can I help you find something?
Lee, for you in the pilot, what did you feel like was really important to nail in terms of genre?
I wanted it to be generally scary when it needed to be, but my hope was that it was sort of, this fun mashup of genres, romance and thriller, almost horror, or psychological thriller. I think is probably a better way of categorizing that. But I don't think the thriller of it all is not as satisfying if the romance doesn't
Yeah.
really land. And that's the weird thing about a character like Joe, and there's obviously other examples of this, but it works best when you're rooting for him to get away with it. It's a little bit of that Patricia Highsmith, Tom Ripley
Yeah.
kind of thing. Is Tom's doing these horrible things, and yet you kind of want him to, you don't want him to get caught.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just my sick mind, but that's the
No,
the
I
sort
feel
of
like you
show's
nailed
a
it.
worldwide hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Lee.
nailed
Everybody
it.
feels that
You
way.
nailed it. I feel like more with Joe than with Ripley.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Put that on record.
Well, and this is, and I have to just, sorry, I know I'm really going on now, but
Yeah.
a quick acknowledgement to Greg Berlanti, one of our fantastic showrunners and
Co-creator.
EPs and co-creator, who really I think was the first to say, Lee, you know, Penn is the guy you want because like it's critical that everybody fall in love with this guy. You know, you can't have somebody who looks like me, a creep, right off the top because you're gonna
I've
tip.
But you
always-
do have a hat.
Yeah, but I got that. You're gonna tip your hand. So anyway, I just think that they're to acknowledge that
Yeah.
that sort of. But
Wait, does that mean you
relationship.
wanted someone else?
No, it doesn't. I just mean I remember him calling me, and I remember him being really excited. And I was like, oh, you know, I think of him as like, you know,
Chris Hemsworth with
Chris
Anthony Hopkins
Hemsworth.
level
I think of it.
presence. It's just,
Gravitas.
it's like he's too talented, and the package is, it's just nobody believes it. Nobody.
I think of glistening abs mostly. No, but there was a little bit of like, is he too? So this is gonna make you laugh. Is he too hunky? Like, is there too much of a dreamboaty thing going
Yeah,
on?
nobody's gonna believe that.
Yeah, and then I realized I met him in person. I was like, oh,
No,
he's
there's
not
no
dreamy
way.
enough.
We're gonna have to get this guy to
Not a
smile,
problem.
smile.
I
Go up
I
at the
drove.
It's when the frown lines.
I drove you nuts. Well, when we get to the scene, there's one smiling.
We're never
bit
gonna
in
get to the
particular.
scene.
No,
I
it's
know. Guys, let's just
tomorrow.
play.
Let's play. Let's
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
All
We
right,
just
here
got to
we
get through this. Let's be quiet.
At the end of the day, people really are disappointing, aren't they?
Sometimes they surprise you. Paula Fox, top shelves. You want me to?
Oh, no, I got it.
I'm curious from your perspective. Do you remember trying to get me to be more charming because you wanted me to be more charming?
A little bit.
Only a little bit?
Well, no.
Can you tell us about that?
I think here's my thought process, and I remember this. I remember going to that first meeting we had, right? Thinking, Penn's gonna be like most actors, where he's gonna be like, I'm thinking I'm gonna work with this trainer, and and I was anticipating having to sort of pull that back because I knew of you as playing heartthrobs,
A ripped. just
shredded, just an absolute, a Chris Hemsworth style.
There's an episode of Gossip Girl that I missed.
No, but in all seriousness, I thought of you as sort of playing leading man, handsome heartthrob. I remember some of the producers and execs, Ryan Lindenberg, who was one of our wonderful producers, saying like, we really have to nail this kind of meet cute scene to sort of buy into the show of like,
and I detest meet cutes. It's just part of who
I think
am.
most actors have
Yeah.
some allergy to that
Yeah.
trope, understandably. But I think it was important to this show because it provides us this nice misdirect of what the show's going to be
because
about.
we're going to deconstruct that
Right,
essentially.
exactly.
So we had to create it.
So to long way of answering your question, I remember feeling like, actually we can really lean into Penn as handsome leading man. But I felt like we were still early enough that, like any director-actor relationship, we're sort of feeling each other out. There's still like, can I trust this person's taste a little bit, especially actor to director, right? So I felt like, not that you were resisting, but there was a little bit of that, like, pushing you kind of one take at a time to sort of go there.
Like, don't masturbate in this one.
Yeah, right. This is not that
Like,
scene,
is this the
Penn.
That one yet.
Have we gotten there yet?
All right, I guess it's time to hold down the grip.
My God.
But I love how this scene turned out, and I love that you. By the way, you guys were both, you and Elizabeth, so willing to do a lot of this like right into the barrel of the lens stuff that I wanted to do to make it to sort of play with this idea of voyeurism and thinking about. Sorry, I'm going to go off for a second. Silence of the Lambs, which is a masterpiece, I think, and Jonathan Demme's direction in that. And you see there's a lot of eye lines right into the barrel, and you feel Clarice's point of view as a woman in a man's world, and how Hannibal looks right at this penetrating look. And I kind of like that idea. And so that's why you see a lot of these close-ups are, clean with the eye line almost down the barrel. A lot of actors, understandably, don't like that because I want to act with a person, not with a matte box and a lens. And you guys were really game, which I remember feeling very appreciative of. I'm still appreciative of.
And it meant for 7 years we were just acting with cameras. Pretty much. Sets the tone and then see ya.
Bye-bye.
You have enough cash to cover this, but you want me to know your name.
Guinevere?
Yeah, my parents were assholes with the whole naming thing, but everyone just calls me Beck. And you're Joe?
Goldberg. Everyone calls me Joe.
Aren't you gonna tell me to have a nice day?
You have a nice day, Beck.
You have one yourself, Joe.
I think Elizabeth is so dynamite. I mean, she's so just effortlessly lovely, and you just want to be around her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I, as a man, woman, straight, gay, you know what I mean? Like, she's just has that
she's
essence to her
magnetic.
that's pretty wonderful. And of course, Zach's about to appear and just be great, and just that dynamic. What I remember, this is going to put everybody to sleep. That handshake was so important to me, and we were running behind, and I wanted to do it off speed, means slow motion, overcranked, and we had a flicker issue. Everybody's already snoring.
No, this is great.
And we had to change the shutter. We had to open the shutter beyond 180 degrees. And there's that little, if you watch it again, there's a little video trail, you might call it. And it drives me nuts to this day.
Really?
That doesn't surprise me.
To the point where I now, on every show, if I'm working with a new DP, I go, you can change the shutter angle to 180 or below, but nothing above 180.
I
And
learned
it's
this in the handshake.
People find the one. I believe that. I try to stay open. I was in love once. She broke my heart, Beck. Oh, she really did a number on me. Should have seen the signs. But we never do.
Did we do the voiceover first, or did we do the?
You did. I think you did a little scratch track that we had in the edit, like
Your
just
stand-in's not doing it.
a blind.
Later we would do that in later seasons, but not in the beginning. In this first season, Cedric, our first AD, would
God.
and he kind of talks like this, and so all of Joe's lines would be like, "Are you not wearing a bra for me? Do you want me to notice?"
we have to talk about Cedric for just a second,
Yes,
because
please.
this is an essential part of just the you
actually.
lore.
It really
So
is.
first season, Cedric Vera, our first AD, who
So
was
charismatic and very tall, by the way. It's
Very
just part of his.
Somehow I got that from the voice.
The
Like,
very
he's super
tall.
tall.
the voice
Very
leans tall.
And his shoulders come over a little
But
bit.
this is the truth, and I don't know if you had this experience. When I met Cedric, first day, I go into the first day. I think I can't work with that guy. That guy has no personality.
Really?
Like, absolute. By the second day, I thought that might be the funniest human being I've ever
Yeah.
met.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
like a true 180 in
Yes.
terms of getting his humor was so dry, and all the things that Penn and I still 7 years later
Or his lines.
say are all his lines,
Yeah.
all the things we would say on set.
Hemorrhaging
And-
money.
Hemorrhaging money. Yeah, nothing
The
can
sun
stop
waits
us.
on no man.
That's right. There's,
Because you're always behind in television. That's the
Always.
thing. Like, you're always so behind the eight ball. You are hemorrhaging money. Literally, it's like $100,000 just left the door. It just, I mean, it's
The
crazy.
scale is so
It-
crazy.
it is. The scale is nuts.
and I actually credit that for how we started to kind of vibe in that we would start repeating these lines from first team stepping in, everybody be cool. It'd be like that. And we would start laughing. And then I think by sort of halfway, we were just all doing Cedric lines. But yeah, he was doing the off camera, and his voice is so dry and so monotone. It was sort of tough to listen to it in this context. But yeah.
A guy needs to protect himself. I had to be sure you're safe. And your name was a glorious place to start. Not a lot of Guinevere Becks. And there you were. Every account set to public. You want to be seen, heard, known. Of course, I obliged.
Do you remember when we were shooting the pilot that sometimes when we would get real charming and everything, I would kind of stop and I'd be like, she dies in the end.
Yeah.
I would like get upset
Yeah.
because we'd be like
Yeah.
making something real charming and I'd just be like, you know, like that kind of thing.
I do. But I also remember thinking, let's have the charm and not need it versus, oh, we need it and need to manufacture it in the cut.
I can actually hear you saying that verbatim.
Yeah, I feel like you're still trying to direct that.
I think we're gonna want it. I think we're gonna want it. And if we want to let it go, it's fine.
Well, thank God you let me talk you into some of that stuff. So yeah.
The next thing our little friend the internet gave me was your address. There it is, with its big, naked windows. It's nice, too nice. Thinking subsidized school housing? Jesus, it's like you've never seen a horror movie or the news.
Do you remember, Lee, the table read?
Very well. Very well.
So we did 2 of them. We did 2 back to back. Here's the thing that's about a table read. I started petitioning to have us stop table reads because the show.
Changing the industry one
Well, no.
project at a time.
well, no, because certain shows like wouldn't have, like I would bet you Severance doesn't have them.
Oh, really?
There's a certain
I would bet you
kind.
they do.
No, there's a lot of shows that don't have them because
Wow.
it's just not. It's usually for comedies. It's usually for comedies, and then it is for, like, we didn't have them for Gossip Girl. Even though it was going to be on Lifetime, Netflix was a partner. There was just a lot of preciousness around this.
Yeah.
Right. There was just.
And also, can I just for the viewers at home, pilots are always heavily scrutinized because even if you're just making a pilot, I mean, this was straight to series, so it's a bigger investment. There's so much scrutiny on what characters are working, what is the tone right, are those jokes landing, is this story, like, there's everything's unknown. I've done 12 pilots. I've done 2 where the lead or one of the leads was fired at the table read.
Oh dear.
Whoa.
Now, it wasn't going to happen with you because you were like
never gonna happen.
No, you were an offer
Body
only.
of
This
Chris
was like-
Hemsworth, mind of Anthony
Glistening
Hopkins.
abs.
Never going to happen. Glistening abs,
Glistening.
glistening eyes. Done.
That should be your Instagram bio.
That should
Glistening abs,
be, that should
glistening
be your
eyes.
Instagram bio. It's really good.
But it was, but
Here,
it's,
hand me your phone.
You haven't posted in months.
but that's the sort of tone at a table read. The pressure is on for everybody.
Wow.
But it's also, on a show like this, such a strange thing because that's not the way it's going to read. So here's why I
But were you going to tell us something about doing a voice?
Yes. I asked eventually to stop doing table reads because what you have to do in them, you have to perform like you're on a friggin' stage.
Yeah.
And
it's all
like,
you.
it doesn't make sense. So actually what I was doing in table read, I'm like, and then Beck comes around the corner. Because it's like, it just doesn't work. And so, Nava, you did see the table read in the last. That's me having done it so much where I've learned how to kind of like project but keep it low and just sort of, it's not an easy. Joe at a table read is a comedy, straight up comedy. I mean, right? Like Joe at a table read is a comedy, bar none. Who's just murdering and masturbating.
Yeah.
So to back up a little bit with table reads, to your point, it's not the performance that's going to be in the show. It's the performance you give in theater for the back row.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's executives who are across the room. Sometimes you're not mic'd.
They can't
Sometimes
hear
you are.
very well 'cause
they
they're all
can't
old.
hear you. Well, I've done table reads where people are in LA zooming in.
Yeah.
So you're really doing like the big performance, you know what I mean, for the back row, which is never going to be in, especially a show like this. So it is this weird like exercise that has nothing to do with making the show, but for it to be successful, it has to be, now give me the Broadway version of an episode of You or whatever.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
Although it's a great idea.
Yeah. Joe at a table read.
But what I remember is 2 things. I remember you being very languid with the VO. I remember it being like very slow and methodical, which was an interesting choice. But it was so slow, and we had to do 2 episodes. And the one thing you want to
like
do at a
this.
table read, it was like this. It's just glacial.
Yeah, we've only watched 7 minutes.
I mean, this is
We're
like-
literally 2 hours into this.
Oh my God. So I just remember Marcos Siega, our brilliant producing director, we were making eye contact. He writes on a notepad. I don't know what it was. Probably speed up. It was like a really crude direction.
R.I.P. Penn.
And it's a room of like cast and like 900 executives.
Yeah.
And Marco's sneaking up. There's no way everybody's watching him, so
Yeah.
there's nothing sneaky about it. Sneaking up to where you were at the front of the
I'm
room,
actually remembering this
and
now.
putting a notepad on, putting a little sticky on your script that said something like "Speed up."
Yeah, and this was me having been in television for my entire effing life. I saw that and I thought,
I'm gonna slow
fuck
down.
them.
Yeah.
I knew you would. Because
Well, he wanted me to do the note, and I'm like, no fucking way, you're doing the note, man.
and I love Marcos. I do love
He's
Marcos.
the best. He's the best.
But I just thought I knew that's exactly
Right.
what they were going to say.
my
Watch
God.
this. Hold my beer.
Crush is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the US, I know that they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options. They have hotels to vacation rentals, and I'm always able to find the thing that fits my specific needs. Booking.com has something for everyone. So with a little baby in tow, and by little baby, I obviously mean this guy, my little fur baby, Louie. My days of crashing on a friend's couch are unfortunately over. I hate to say it, but not everyone is as open to having a little dog as I would like. And so I have to find the place that's perfect for the two of us, that's pet friendly, that's affordable, where I know that we're both going to be comfortable and have the best time possible, worry free. And no matter what, Booking.com always helps me find a place that's in the right location for the right price. It's just ridiculously right. So find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
So you didn't finish.
By the way, I just will say as we go, both you and Elizabeth were so great about tough stuff. This is not pleasant
It's
to
not,
do.
and I won't freeze it here. I'll freeze it on me.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like
okay. So this, I remember not knowing what the fuck to do with my arms. I was just like, because we were about to shoot it, and I was like, wait a second, I'm wearing my jacket, and then I think I was like, I don't know if I said it to you. I was like, I think we know it's a fantasy, but like there has to be. I don't think I should be wearing my jacket.
Well, but it was also because I think it was me. It was a great idea, whoever it was. But we
But it was
wanted
definitely me.
the seamlessness of as you come down, shirt come off, to have the extra
Oh, that's right,
layer
it was
would have
about
been a
the shirt coming
drag.
off. Let
Yeah.
the record show. It was about the shirt coming off.
It's about the abs.
And I remember, I just remember still getting into this the tone. Whereas by season, there's nothing that could make me uncomfortable by season 5. I feel like I was just like, I just wild stuff all the time. Yeah. And like just fine. I can stand still and not be worried about a damn thing for hours. But this was, I just felt there was something about that one shot where I didn't know what to do. And right before we shot, I just put my arms behind my back. And worst choice I've made. Worst choice I've made. There's something about it that I hate that it's like, what are you doing?
Penn, wait, how well did you and Elizabeth know each other by that point? And do you guys have to have like a little pep talk? Like sort of how does that go?
You mean for this kind of stuff? No, I don't remember. And I think like there's more conversations around this kind of stuff now.
Was there an intimacy coordinator?
This is
No, they didn't have
pre-
that.
They
They
didn't
didn't have
that.
exist.
Wow.
They didn't
This is
exist.
2017, world was flat. No-
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the world got flat later. I think. No, it was pretty like this was one of those scenes it's easy to just kind of do because it's just kissing as far as I recall, and you just kind of go into it. Let's see.
Just like
Thank you. You're so kind. I don't suppose you can help me get a cab, can you?
Of course.
Thanks.
I just saw that Conan piece
Yeah.
you did where you talked about this.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to remember. I gave you the note
Yeah.
that you needed to close your eyes and it needed to be faster.
Yes.
Where that note came from, no idea. I think what I was getting to was
Lee, for people who haven't seen the Conan piece.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit?
Penn, you could probably say better than you're on Conan's podcast.
Yeah, famously, it's one of the most viewed. Just for reference, I was talking about at some point you coming up and being like, okay, so we're gonna. I think I'm gonna need you to get you to close your eyes. and could you just go faster? I think because admittedly, I think with eyes open and slow, it's just like, ugh.
Well, look, it's all unsettling, but what I remember feeling was like, is it
just too much
creepier, or is it less creepy if your eyes are closed?
Yeah,
like because I think a piece of that coverage was sort of pushing in right on you, and with eyes open, did it feel too unsettling?
Yeah, like you didn't want to. In terms of Joe revealing who he is, we didn't want to blow our load right away, didn't we?
Ooh, I like what you did there. I like what you did there. Yeah.
That's
right.
But
That's
I mean,
right.
and this is the bizarre absurdity of this character, which I've always just sort of poked fun at and pressed because it's funny and it's absurd and it's crazy. But it's like the idea that at this point we're still kind of keeping some of our cards close to the vest is
Right.
it's insane.
Yeah.
If you right, but we are, and so it's like, well, we don't want to be too creepy. You don't want him to be creepy while he's masturbating outside. But again, in retrospect, now it's like I fully understand the idea. I fully understand. It's like we can't let him. We're not strangling her right now. And God, it's awful to make these jokes and juxtapose with it, but that's what it is. It's like it's this intense juxtaposition of so many tones that if you did go too creepy right there, I do get that. But then, of course, the Anthony Hopkins part of me was just like, I shall not, I will not. I will go slow.
I'm sorry, Puck. I had one back here for you, but Ethan must have sold it.
Sold what?
Your next read. Come on, I'll show you where we keep the good stuff.
Creaky.
It's the cage. It's where we keep early editions and collectibles.
It's cold.
65 degrees for the books.
If the zombies come, this is where I'm hiding.
Actually, how I don't know that I've heard much of a story around the genesis story of the cage and how you guys decided to build it.
Well, interestingly, in the book, it's not, as I remember, it's been years since I've read the book, but it's not ultra specific. What I remember it being was, temperature control and other things, but there was some genesis of like it being a oversized bird cage, but I might be conflating that with Sarah investigating, well, how could Mr. Mooney have actually gotten the materials to this? Because he's not Hannibal Lecter, right, Mr. Mooney? So a lot of this was
I
from
think
like
there was a little bit of a cage idea in the book in the book.
For big birds, like if you owned, parakeets and right.
I was never as familiar with the book. In the last final climactic scene, I don't know if either of you know this, in the book, they have sex through the portal
You're
in the
kidding.
cage.
You're kidding.
Yeah, they do.
You didn't choose to put that in the show? It's amazing.
So when he's got her in the cage,
I'd forgotten.
When he's got her in the cage, that is the part of Joe. And by the way, I think in the book it's just what it needs to be. Like in the book, it's like I think in the book the reader has a far more severe moral dilemma in what they just did. You know what I mean? You're
right.
Wow. Yeah, they have sex through the hole in the cage. She's kind of like trying to seduce him
Yeah, so
slash
that he'll let her out.
Yeah,
I see,
but
I
I
see.
think I mean, it's,
I see.
it's.
But
I think
you
it's
don't- yeah,
it's
yeah, I
it's
understand.
for the sake of the literary device. I think it's disturbingly more gray
Yeah,
than
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it's so
But she is being held.
yes, she's definitely
Yeah,
held, and
yeah,
she's
yeah.
definitely knows that she's probably going to die in there. And then another thing
Wow,
about
that is so disturbing.
it's so disturbing. And then another thing, when he and I think this is the Joe that is not palatable for television. But Joe strangles her, and differently from the show, like you viscerally go through that moment of him strangling her, as opposed to not seeing it in the show, and and then after strangling her, he has one of his thought deep dives on his guilt, his remorse, and what he would do. Like and because I think you're not so aware of him being, well, I guess you are. He's a total serial murderer at that point. But I think what it does convincingly is bring to life this idea that maybe he would change.
Yeah.
Because he's so remorseful. And then she gasps back to life, and he strangles her again.
That is so
That is-
intense.
That is so intense. It's so profoundly intense and so different from the show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and to me, they're like many shows or movies compared to the books. I just think it's just different.
I heard this from Marco Sega, and Lee, you would definitely know better. So if I heard it and I'm wrong, I'm misremembering what he said. But I think he said that it's billed fresh every season because it's too expensive to transport, and every season was a different location.
Yeah.
And it wasn't saved in the first season. So
true.
even though it did end in New York, even the New York one was built again. So every cage is a little bit different.
It's true.
But I had also heard this summer in New York that because we were back in New York for the first time since season 1, that Jason Sokoloff, one of our amazing producers, had got in touch with the construction coordinator. I think it was the construction coordinator who did this season to do season 5. And he's like, oh, I still have the cage door. He'd kept the cage.
Whoa.
So I believe, I hope Jason or Marcos could confirm this, but
It's the original
cage door on season 5 is the same
that's
cage
cool.
door.
Nice little nod.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I think when we back to sort of building this, I think the
Yeah.
big thing was like looking at Hannibal Lecter's cell in Silence of the Lambs, making sure it didn't feel too much like that. The thing you don't really prep for, at least I didn't, was like the cell is reflection hell.
Oh, it's so hard to
And
show,
it is
which I really
just
love.
it is constant, and we, crew on the call sheet, remember, everybody's got to wear black if they're going to be camera department in particular.
Everybody
is-
who's shooting on the set, they look like ring wraiths.
right, yeah,
Because they have to put these black cloths over them. Because you see anything that isn't literally matte black will be reflected in the glass.
And you have to
in the
kind of sit
plexiglass.
like in the corner. Like normally in a shot, you can just sit outside the camera.
I like to
But
sit
for
right in your
the-
eye line.
yeah, you have to just like sit very off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really,
It's definitely a different thing.
Did you sit in on any cage scenes? this
yeah,
summer?
it was really
Nice.
cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and also an interesting thing, sound. Sound is tough. It's not that easy to hear each other.
Right.
When you're in the cage scenes.
Actually, the very first day that I walked on set, they were doing a cage scene.
Was it?
And Penn, remember? Penn was getting makeup done, and he didn't recognize me for like a split second. So I walked. Do you remember? Anyway,
No, you were.
it was-
yeah,
I,
you
I
told
think
us
you
that.
told me.
Told
I
us
think
that,
you told me
yeah.
you were poking me, right?
Yeah, I was like poking you, and you wouldn't turn around.
No,
And I
and
think
see-
people were embarrassed for me. They were like, "Oh, she told everyone she knew him."
No, you know what's funny is
No, people were embarrassed for me for the split second that Penn just didn't register what was happening. He just wouldn't turn around and acknowledge me, and people were like, "Oh, she told everyone she knew him."
no, but see, this is where I've told you this before, and I think you didn't believe me.
Yeah.
When I'm on set, Lee knows this. As an actor, especially when you're like the star of a show, you constantly have people just coming up to you asking this. They have to check your mic. That you lift up your shirt. They rip off your chest hair. Somebody's like putting fake blood here. Somebody's touching your hair. Somebody's tying your shoe. Literally, like you're just. I have said before, and in case anybody thought it was hyperbole, it's very true. If I'm on set, like touching me, I don't. It doesn't register. Like I
Yeah.
literally, somebody could just be like this,
Yeah.
and if I'm having a conversation, I'm just assuming that's supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like it doesn't.
That's kind of what was
even-
happening. I was just like poking him and he just wasn't.
Yeah, and like I'm
Acknowledging.
telling you, didn't feel it. Didn't feel it at all.
So funny.
Careful, Joseph. When it comes to the value of a book, it's all about condition.
That's Mark Bloom.
Yeah.
Mark Bloom. Very sadly, he passed in the beginning of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Bloom is the older gentleman.
Yeah, he
Mooney.
plays Mr. Mooney. I mean, you know, for me, actually, the beginning of the pandemic, that was a big moment where he was the first person I knew
Yeah.
who died from
Me
COVID.
too.
It was it was like and I think to this show, Mr. Mooney, you know, he very conceivably would have been used in flashbacks
totally.
throughout the
Yeah.
entirety of the series.
I
You
mean,
know,
he-
so we were impacted, and it was very sobering. You know, and he was such. Obviously, we're not going to be recapping it here, but there's one. You know, we didn't work together much because he's usually with young Joseph. But there's one sequence, and I think the 9th episode or 8th episode where we worked a lot together. So we spent, I think, like literally 2 days, and that's kind of it. But that's, you know, when you work on projects, what people don't realize is that's often the way it is for actors. Like you can build this intense intimacy for like 2 days and then never see each other again. And that was the case with Mark, and he was was a really lovely man, really talented, and really encouraging as well.
Yeah. And had quite a storied career.
He did,
obviously.
yeah.
I mean, a big time New York actor on stage and screen, and it was again one of the great parts of being in New York, getting somebody like this, and very sad story for sure. One of the reasons this show's special to me, beyond just having had a great time making it and being proud of the result, my grandmother died right before we started shooting, and I didn't make it home in time to see her. I was very, very close with her, and so I was sort of
you were out in New York.
I was in New York, and she was here, and I didn't know my grandfathers because they died before I was born. My other grandmother wasn't close to, very, very close with this grandmother. Was really, obviously upset about that. And then not long after that, my wife Lauren was with me in New York this whole time. We got pregnant with Ellis, my firstborn, who's Anyway, so again, probably more information than
Tell us
you
about
need.
the night you conceived.
But
What scene were you shooting that day?
but there's a lot. I mean, again, it because of the sort of big
Life and death.
life
Yeah.
life and
Life
death,
and death, right there,
moments.
right there, around the cage.
Well,
And I'm not saying it ironically, like for once.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that
Yeah.
makes life memorable.
Yeah. So anyway, that's when I see Paco as a young kid. You know, my son Ellis is like 6.5. He's younger than Paco, obviously.
He's the
but-
same age as the cage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, same age as the show.
Wow. I like it.